Hello there. My name's Tim Stainer, and I'd like to share my final project with you and talk about the ways that we incorporated technology into this project and then some pros and cons of this project that we ran into. So, what I did is I had my students do a home safety survey, and I know the picture's a little bit blurry, but basically, a home safety survey goes through things like smoke alarms and exit plans and things that could be causing dangers around your house that would leave you to for a higher potential of having a fire in your home, and the things that we kind of do when you do have a fire, as opposed to getting trucks in and those kind of things. So here's just a picture of a little snapshot of my classroom on Google Classroom, and it shows you all the presentations there. Um, Basically, just wanted to prove there was multiple presentations that were done at this point. And the next thing we're going to move on to is some examples of the presentations. And one thing that I'll say is I was extremely proud of my students and the presentations that they put together. So first, they completed that home safety survey, and that was like part one of the project. And then the second part of the project was to put together a Google slide presentation of the information that they learned, that they found, and share that with the class. And then the third part of that was they were to present it to the class. And then the fourth part was they got credit for actually attaching it back to Google Classroom so they could turn in the assignment and get the credit. So here are some examples that I pulled out of a couple of the presentations. Most of the presentations started with a picture of someone's home. And they would say, okay, this is my house. It's a 2-story residential, blah, blah, blah. We use all the fire terminology. But the picture down here in the lower right, I thought was very interesting because one of the students actually created what their parking situation was, because part of this assignment was they needed to explain to us what the access for fire trucks would be to their house if it was to catch on fire. And I thought it was kind of neat that the student put together this little diagram down here because he lived actually on the end of a court. This slide here is actually a slide that I copied out of one of the presentations. I thought the student did very well. Another little snippet to this assignment was they needed to go on the internet and actually pull a picture off of the internet and have that included in their presentation as well. And here's one where the student was actually talking about smoke detectors and CO detectors and pulled what I think is a pretty good picture off of the internet to include in their slideshow. This particular student was actually incorporated some aerial views of his property that made it a lot more visual for the students, because these were actually presented through Microsoft Teams online, because we're online educating right now. And this really helped visualize where the student's house sat, what it looked like around the house of the student, and then these different hazards or things that needed to be noted in his safety survey. So I thought that was really interesting, and he actually put some work into that part of the project. This was one of the title pages. As soon as I seen this from this particular student, I knew I was going to put it in my presentation. I love this title page, how he put the fire around it and then put his information in the middle. I thought that was excellent. Some pros and cons of the project. Some pros were definitely that it was a comprehensive assignment. So the students, like I said earlier, we had these 4 parts where first they had to complete the safety survey and turn it in. The next thing they did was they created that presentation. The third thing was they actually presented that information. And then the fourth part was they had to go back to Google Classroom and get their assignment uploaded. They learned about their house. They presented to the class. They used multiple technology. So we used Google Classroom, Google Slides, Microsoft Teams, and then, of course, the internet. Some of the problems we ran into was with the internet. Some of the kids struggled with good internet. The other problem was I couldn't physically be there to help them, and they didn't have that interaction in person with their presentations. I thought that was definitely a con. So thank you for allowing me to share these projects that my students completed with you. It was a very good project, and I enjoyed doing it. Thank you.